Welcome to Media Dialogues. We are hearing a lot about ONDC these days, aren't we? Open Network Digital Commerce is the government's ambitious plan to democratize e-commerce. It's expected to give buyers access across private online shopping platforms, lower the barriers to entry for sellers, and boost online retail that has less than 8% penetration today in India. Users in Bengaluru are beta testing ONDC, and Delhi is slated to get it next. Ahead of that, we have some exclusive details of how marketers are reacting to ONDC and how inclined they are to join it and what kind of opportunities they can get from this. Please welcome in the studio Anupriya Acharya, South Asia CEO of the Publici Group, Lalatendu Das, or LD as he's called, the CEO of Performix India, and Arvind Gupta, co-founder and head of the Digital India Foundation. He's also a member of the board of ONDC. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you here face to face. And Arvind, thank you for joining us from Delhi. I'm going to start with you. I'd like you to, before we deep dive into ONDC, set up a context for us of Digital India, because we know that the digital economy has been such a thrust of Prime Minister Modi's government. And also in terms of scale, there are some mind-boggling numbers that we are, seeing when it comes to what Digital India is in terms of size.
So thank you for having me, Anuradha. But let me start off with a very pertinent thing. Why ONDC now, and what is the context of Digital India behind it? See, Digital India, as we launched the program officially 7 years ago, and in the pre-harvest mode in July 2014. Today, we have about 840 million consumers on the internet from India. It's the world's largest free democratic consumer base that we have. Platforms and open networks like UPI are doing over 7 billion transactions a month. In 6 years of being popular. We have the lowest data connectivity, cost of data connectivity in the world, anywhere in the world. And we have one of the, perhaps the highest per capita content consumption in India. Given that, Digital India has come a long way. So building networks, building access, affordable access to providing core open digital public goods like UPI, like Aadhaar, like eKYC, like the Q1 platform, like the National Digital Authority, National Digital Health Mission. All of this are leading to a very vibrant, bottom-up, sustainable digital economy in India, which is unlike anywhere else in the world. And with the draft PDP bill, we are also providing the right legislative and regulatory frameworks to wherever possible to enable more digital economy. So in that context, it's very important to see ONDC, because the number that you gave, 8% only transact online, buy something online, and that's the number we want to change. So it's in the right life cycle, right state of Digital India that we are introducing the ONDC platform to the nation.
I'm going to take this to Anupriya now. Anupriya, retail, we saw the kind of accelerated, growth of e-commerce and adoption because of the lockdown and the pandemic experience. And yet we are still looking at such a small percentage of India's online users doing e-commerce. Can you explain the retail landscape in this context?
Sure. So I start by just adding to what Arvind said. In terms of India, it's well established that it's one of the largest digital economies. And one of the numbers that really stands out and being very quoted around these days is the number of real-time online transactions that have happened in 2021. That's about 48 billion. Now, on its own, the number may not mean anything. But actually, that is the largest number for any single market globally in terms of real-time online transactions. Clearly, I mean, accelerated by the the digital adoption, accelerated by all the right kind of Digital India initiatives on infrastructure, on cheap access to data. India has reached here as a market, and this is a true sort of testimony of that. However, coming to the e-commerce landscape, if you look at it, there has been a lot of acceleration in that as well, given all these factors that we spoke about. And the pandemic accelerated a lot of this adoption of everything, like EdTech,
Yeah,
HealthTech,
absolutely.
whatever. And as part of that, e-commerce as well. And one very important segment that has contributed to that is this whole, tech ecosystem and the entrepreneurs. So close to 30 unicorns have come out in the e-commerce space. So this is definitely a very vibrant space, and definitely there's a lot of people embracing it. But at the end of it all today, as we speak, there are about 150 million sort of e-tail shoppers, which is, of course, I mean, next only to China and US. But if you look at the overall volume being transacted, it's still about...
This number seems to be really small in relative terms.
Yes, so if you look at the overall, if you look at the overall digital users in India, internet users in India, it is just about 20% of that, which is low.
Right.
And if you look at the overall volumes that are being done in terms of e-tail sales, that was about at 48 billion in 2020. We should close it at 75 billion this year, as per some of the reports that suggest that. But still a long way to go. And a large part of that is also to do with the fact the nature of the e-tail trade in India. So 84% are still unorganized sector, the Kirana sector. And they have yet to embrace digital adoption. Large part of the MSMEs, which is almost 33% of our GDP, they are yet to embrace that. So there are 7.9 million MSMEs in India, and large part of them have not got digitally enabled till such time that we embrace that.
Arvind, what is, Anupriya set it up very beautifully, the context of the retail sector. What is the vision that you'll have for, ONDC? Because clearly there is a problem that you're looking to solve. And I hear these words, interoperability, unbundling, So, all of these words which sort of describe how this will be. And therefore, if you could tell us what is the vision and the problem that the ONDC is looking to solve when it comes to e-retail in India.
Question is why this 8% is not becoming 30%, 40%, or becoming, as fast as the acceleration that we want. One of the reasons behind that is that it's still expensive for sellers to sell on the existing platforms,
private platforms,
existing technologies that are available to them. Two, we have really not democratized e-commerce, and that's where the word debundling that you are talking about, that we are talking about, is coming in. What we are looking at is a very, very disruptive way. ONDC is very disruptive in the way it's never been done for anywhere in the world. Because we're debundling, we're making it an open network. We are taking the stakeholders to come in. We are trying to actually fix, if I can be bold enough to say, what is wrong with the current e-commerce systems today.
Yes.
Please
say. In fact, that is exactly what I want you to tell me. What is it that the private sector is not able to provide when e-commerce is concerned?
So the binding nature of the private players means that I have to be a seller and the buyer on the same network, and plus the rent seeking is very high.
Right.
And if you take UPI as an example, and what did UPI do that changed all of this was that it reduced the rent seeking and democratized payments. And now everybody is making payments. We're talking about 7.5 billion transactions a month. That is the problem that we are trying to solve with the ONDC.
Arvind, would you be able to illustrate that? Exactly this conceptually what you just told us. If you were to illustrate that, it would just be easier to understand.
Let me explain that in a very simple way. You have multiple systems who have a lot of buyers on them. They now can use that buyer base to sell products and services that they have erstwhile not been able to sell. If they had to invest a lot of money in building their catalog of products and services, it takes a lot of effort. And that is an effort that eventually gets passed on, that charging of that eventually gets passed on to the sellers.
Right.
Now, if you think there are certain sellers who don't want to pay that 20%, 15%, 30%, but they also do want to leverage this whole digital India phenomena, this e-commerce phenomena, the UPI phenomena to sell. And they are the ones that can now be discovered by these buyer side things on a very small transaction cost, much less rent seeking, and can then sell their products to a much larger audience and still be free, not be in the this whole one single platform system.
Right. So they're not locked in. So I could be on ONDC and I could still be on the Flipkarts and Amazons and JioMarts of the world.
Can be anywhere. I
Right.
mean, without taking any names, you can be
Sure.
anywhere. It's something that that gives you more power. And lastly, the logistics provider, the third-party logistics provider, which is one of the USPs of closed platform systems, is also debundled, and that's where the debundling comes in. So I am no longer logged in just because I didn't have access to logistics provider. I was a small player, and I didn't have. A logistics provider would not come and take 5 transactions, 10 transactions a month from me. Now I've completely changed that. We're trying to fix what is currently broken with e-commerce globally, not only in India, but globally.
Fix e-commerce, and the system as it is, not just in India, but globally. That's like that's a big picture vision. LD, when you conducted this survey, you tell us a bit about it. You spoke to marketers, and this whole I'm guessing that the raison d'etre for this survey was to onboard marketers, to figure out how they can participate in ONDC, isn't it?
So, Anuradha, our primary research involved both online surveys as well as interviews of some of the leading marketers in the country. If I just share some of the key insights, I would structure in 2 parts. First part is where ONDC fits in the overall ecosystem. And second is how marketers are responding to it, right? So if I take the first part, we talked about the e-commerce penetration to be less than 8% in India. But if I scratch the surface a little bit more, if I take a category lens, when it comes to mobile electronics, we are at 30%. Those are the fastest selling thing on marketplaces. But when it comes to grocery, we are less than 1% of how much transaction happens on this. Second, if you look, 3 out of 5 new e-commerce buyers come from tier 2 or tier 3 cities, where their needs are much more hyperlocal commerce, vernacular language, a little bit price sensitive. And these are the areas which are not fully getting addressed by existing infrastructure, and that's where ONDC has a role to play. That was the first part. Second part, when we did our research on marketers, how they are perceiving, 3 key insights came in. Number one, there's a lot of optimism about what ONDC is. Just to give an example, 91% of respondents believe that ONDC is beneficial to their business. 82% felt that ONDC is going to increase reach for their product. And 18% were already working with ONDC to integrate their systems.
But there is awareness and understanding of what ONDC will mean.
And one other element that came in is the cost per transaction, which we were referring to. Our view is a little bit jury still out on that because we looked at one category, which is food delivery. We saw there are 9 to 12% cost saving that ONDC can give. But the other sectors' data is yet to come. So we are just reserving our insight on that. And the last piece is, while there is a lot of excitement, there are some apprehensions also, because 73% of respondents felt that this evolving regulations and guidelines about roles and responsibilities, customer service, these are areas they need a little bit more comfort on. So all in all, Anuradha, there is a clear and present need for ONDC, and there's a lot of excitement. I would say a cautious optimism is what we observed in the market.
We're just going to pause a little bit because we've got to take a commercial break, but don't go anywhere. When we get back, we're going to deep dive into this survey and study that the Publicity Group has done and find out what ONDC can offer marketers. Stay with us.
Hey Rahul, what's up?
Hey, kicked about our first date?
Of course.
Benefits up to rupees 30,000 only at the Citroën C3 Carnival. Book today.
She wants to live a life without fear. She wants the opportunity to set the highest standards and benchmarks. She wants to be a ceiling breaker, a go-getter, and a change maker. She wants to be the leader of today and tomorrow. CNBC-TV18 takes another very important step to ensure that gender parity becomes an undeniable reality. Where equitable gain, equal participation, infinite growth become the rules, not the exceptions of the game. Making the future truly forward.
HSBC presents CNBC-TV18 Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective.
Presented by HSBC. Industry partner, Vicky. Associate partner, Reliance Industries Limited.
The last hour. Anything can happen between the bells. But what happens during the last hour is what matters the most. The biggest market swings. A close-up look at what's driving them. And how the investors are reacting. Watch the most seasoned market mavens guide you through the most important hour of the trading day. NSE Closing Bell. At these times, only on CNBC TV18 and CNBC-TV18.com.
Powered by LIC. हर पल आपके साथ.
Welcome back on Media Dialogues. My guests are Anupriya Acharya of Publici Group, Lalatendu Das of Performix India, and Arvind Gupta of the Digital India Foundation, also board member of the ONDC. Arvind, we know that Bengaluru has been testing ONDC, and this is beta testing, so actual users in a public environment are using it in a real-world scenario. What can you tell us about the experience there so far? And we know that Delhi is next, so give us a sense of the feedback that you're getting and how you're assessing what ONDC has managed to deliver so far.
So, Bangalore is the tech capital of India, if you may call it. And testing a product in Bangalore gives us not only the, while it is a very urban sector, but gives us a very brutal and fair feedback in the sense that this is working, this is not working. The market expectation is very high. So we've gone to Bangalore for that reason. And
so what is not working?
So it's a very good it's a good feedback. We have got a lot of transactions happening. It was a limited testing with only 16 pin codes, a few buyer side applications, few seller side applications, two or three logistics providers. But it's been seamless. We have had industry better than industry level returns. So, I mean, in the lower number of returns, there have been grievances, complaints. So that is the process that I think we need to address and work on, the whole aspect of trust. And part of the trust is not only just trust in technology, but also the trust in product quality, ratings, reviews. So those are the feedbacks that we have received so far. And that's the whole idea. I mean, involve the stakeholders. We want to know the mistakes that are there, the existing things that we can solve for, and then keep improving. And Bangalore has provided a lot of that, and we take it forward from there. The best demand that is coming in, and which is very heartening, is the startups. The startups who are building their systems, the startups who are solving for this, using this and basing their new business models going forward. Because a lot of startups who missed out, if I may call it the UPI bandwagon initially, are making sure that they don't miss this opportunity to build their startups on top of it.
When you look at the origin story of the ONDC and the idea and then the vision, it is to enable sellers to get on board with minimum difficulty and to really open up markets for them. Where do you see, or what do you see the ONDC deliver to buyers and users? And Arvind, one suggestion, looking at UI, DAI and how it became Aadhaar, which was much easier for people to relate to. Is that something you all are looking at for ONDC to be called something that buyers and consumers can actually, say with great ease?
That is one of the constant feedbacks we are receiving. People don't know what SMTP stands for, but they use which is the email technology.
Yes.
So ONDC, in our terminology, is a technology.
Yes.
We will, when it gets launched, it will be branded.
Sure.
Could be branded very differently. So that feedback is noted and suggested. Whether it's Universal Commerce of India or Unified Commerce Interface, we'll see that as we go along. But this is a suggestion process, and we are taking a lot of suggestions on that. Absolutely, that is valid. The consumers, when I differentiate between consumers and buyers are people who are actually buying something right now.
Yes.
Consumers are people not able to buy things because they're limited pin codes, limited. So we get more requests these days from people saying, I want to buy, but I'm not able to buy. And as I said, it's a limited data. So that's something that is not happening. But one example I want to give you, which is very pertinent, how small retailers, small shopkeepers, food and beverage providers, restaurant providers who have been able to sell, and people have been able to buy products because, again, the lower rent seeking has been a constant feedback we've been getting. So I know one product from UP, a couple of transactions from UP, which is called the One District, One Product transaction. So UP has this program called One District, One Product that actually got discovered by ONDC and sold in Bangalore, which erstwhile would have never happened.
Anupriya, there are some, in that study, there are some very, very big targets or goals that have been identified, in terms of the volume. I think I've made points of that. We'll put it up as graphics also. 75% pin codes in India to be serviced, 3.75 lakh crore of gross merchandise value, 90 crore buyers, 12 lakh sellers, 750 crores additional purchases. Give us a sense of how all of this will fall into place given where ONDC is at this point of time. I know this is also a question that's for Arvind, but how do you see it from a little bit of an outsider's perspective?
Sure. So that's from our end, all right? So the thing is that technology can take commerce anywhere now, right? And every transaction that happens potentially with the consumer can be a commerce moment. Be it a tweet, be it a text, be it a mail, be it an online video, there is opportunity for commerce everywhere. And so at Publicis, that's really a charter, that commerce is no longer a side conversation. It's instrumental to your business and marketing strategy. And hence, it was obviously, if we apply the India lens to it, and with ONDC set to transform e-commerce in India, it made immense sense for us. It was a foregone conclusion for us that we had to deep dive. There's a lot of, as I said, there's a lot of work around the financial aspect, technology aspect, but eventually it is the buyers and the sellers and the marketers that are really going to use it, right? And to achieve that kind of scale that is being forecasted and all that is very important. These are important stakeholders in the entire ecosystem. It's very important that we carry them along. So that was the key reason why we said that we must decode it and come out with clear sort of, areas, what they can do, enable marketers, enable clients to be able to prepare to get on the ONDC and benefit with the scale of commerce which it is set to achieve. So from our end, we believe that if it goes on track as it's meant to be, then in just a few years' time, commerce, which is just like a minuscule conversation possibly for large clients, and it's just one aspect that they deal with most of the times, this can become really a driver for growth for them in a big manner.
Okay, LD, final question to you on this, and that is, what are some of the things marketers want more information on? What are some of the areas that they see or expect to be pain points? Is there any feedback on that count where ONDC as a concept is concerned?
Absolutely. During my research, Anuradha, we came across what are the unique aspects of ONDC, which is not available in alternate e-commerce channels. Number one, ONDC's discovery is totally search-based. There is no browse option. You need to start the customer journey with a search. Number two, there is a lot of focus on hyper-local. For example, in Bangalore, when you use ONDC, you get the option of selecting who in my local vicinity is providing that product, right? And number three, which is very interesting, it's a network, right? And the transaction level contracts get formed in the real time. You may have a seller, a buyer, a separate third-party logistic provider, a payment provider, all these come together. Now, these have implications when it comes to how marketers need to think about making the best use of ONDC. And in our research, we have introduced a Publicis proprietary framework called CAMS, which is an acronym for C for content, A for availability, M for media, P for pricing, and S for search, which gives a very structured approach on how marketers can leverage ONDC. Just to give you one real illustration to bring it to life, when it comes to content, the catalog, the way you define your product descriptions and catalog noding is very important in ONDC because the customer search, when you initiate, it goes to ONDC registry, checks who are the seller app having that product. Now, if you are not done that right as a marketer, you may not get an opportunity to sell your product even though you have availability, right? So all that kind of comes in together. So in a sense, I think what we found is it's an exciting new opportunity, a really innovative space. But marketers
will have to gear up for it. They'll have to retrain, look at how they do things, right?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
And that gives you a head start. If you have a structured approach to approaching ONDC, you can get a head start.
And ride the wave it will provide. I'm going to close by asking you the last question, Arvind. We talked about Bengaluru. We know the alpha testing, that's testing in closed environments is going on in some 86 places in India currently. When do we see a national rollout? When do we see big brand advertising and marketing for ONDC with that new name that people can say? Give us a timeline plan, please.
Yeah, so I think this is early days. Testing is going on. Multiple cities will be made beta live soon, and I think you see a launch plan, a national rollout, full national rollout sometime Q1 next year, and. The success is the government will put all its might behind it, and it's going to be the roller coaster effect, the network effect that we talk about in all the digital economy, that we want to make sure that there is enough consumers, enough buyers, enough pin codes that we are covering, and the network effect will then take over. And today you hardly see any advertising from the government side to make UPI payments. We wish in 2 years we reach that stage.
So you're saying you won't have to do it for ONDC either?
Well, of course, and that is the hope, and that is what will finally bring down the cost to the ecosystem. So watch out for this space for exact date announcements, big bang launches. But as of right now, we are on track to meet our targets. We are getting some very, very good feedback, and I think this is a space not only that companies and innovators in India are watching out for, but the world is watching out.
Sure. Thank you very much, Arvind. We wish you good luck, and we are going to keep watching this space. We expect you to come back and have follow-up conversations when more developments happen. Thank you. And thank you, Anupriya Lalatendu. Thank you very much. I wish you all a lot of good luck.
Thank you, Anuradha, for having us on your show. Lovely to be here.
Thank you for watching. Catch Media Dialogues again next week, same time on CNBC-TV18.
Odisha.